Hi everyone, welcome back to another hashtag chess video. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you a tactic that I've seen all the way from beginner level up to my level, which is about 1900, 2000 online blitz. I'll be showing you a couple of example games that you can see how the basic tactic works, and I'll also be giving you two rules which you can use to check if the tactic works for you or for your opponent. A few months ago, Fundy and Ludwig, who are both around 1100, 1200, took part in the Botes Live block battles. In this position, Ludwig with white is doing quite nicely and seems to have quite a bit of pressure along the g5 to d8 diagonal. So he played the seemingly logical move knight to d5, putting a little bit more pressure along this diagonal. If you want, you can pause the video here to try find out why this move is such a disaster. If you spotted the following continuation, well done, since it was missed in the actual game. After knight takes knight, white is left with the following problem. You just lost your knight, but now your bishop is being attacked, and it's not defended. If you take the knight that took your knight, you end up losing your entire bishop. If you defend your bishop, or if you just move it away, then black gets to retreat their knight is safe, and they still up an entire piece. And if we try to get fancy and do an intermediate or an intermezzo move, so trade bishops, black has the option of just taking back with their knight which was being attacked. So they save their knight, recapture the piece, and once again, they're up an entire minor piece. So going back to our starting position, knight to d5 ends up losing us a piece no matter how our opponent responds. Fortunately for Ludwig, Fundy didn't spot this, but this is what makes chess difficult if we don't get punished for our bad moves. Ludwig drew this game, and let's see what happens in game 2. Here Ludwig tried out the same theme. We once again have the bishop putting some pressure on this diagonal, and so Ludwig went with knight to e4, very similar to the previous game, although it is a completely different position. This time though, Fundy did capture the knight on e4, and we have the exact same problem as previously. If we capture the knight, we lose our bishop, but if we take the bishop, white can just take back and save the knight, and we end up being an entire piece down. By now you should have noticed a little bit of a theme. We move our knight to a square which looks as though it's busy pinning the knight to the bishop, but after they capture our knight, we end up having a situation where our bishop is being attacked, and if we trade bishops, they can just recapture and save the knight. So for this tactic to work, firstly, their knight must be defending their bishop after they capture our piece. And secondly, our bishop must be undefended. If their knight weren't defending their bishop, like over here, then it would just be a trade because we give up our knight but we capture their bishop. On the other hand, if our bishop were defended, then after knight takes, we can just recapture the knight, and if they take our bishops, we've just traded off a knight and a bishop for a knight and a bishop. If you're finding this video helpful so far, it'd be great if you gave the video a thumbs up to help it reach more people, and you can subscribe to the channel for more content like this. If there are any specific topics you want me to cover, you can leave a comment down below, and if there aren't any topics, you can just comment your favorite day of the week to show that you made it this far into the video. Let's look at some examples of how this tactic might happen in games, and you can also check the link in the description if you want to see the openings from the Ludwig and Fundy games. A lot of you might go through the journey I described in last week's bad math video. After e4, e5, knight to f3, knight to c6, bishop to c4, bishop c5, d3, you'll know that after knight to f6, knight to g5 doesn't end up leading anywhere, and often it's a better idea to just pin the knight with bishop to g5. Let's say your opponent just castles, and then after you develop your pieces, they get a little bit scared about this pin, so they go bishop to e7, and after you've completed your development and your opponent's moved, you're now trying to come up with a plan. Is knight to d5 a good idea over here? Pause the video and do a quick check of if the previous two conditions are met in this position. After knight to d5, our opponent's knight will be defending their bishop on e7, so the first condition is met. The second condition is our bishop undefended on g5? And you might think that's not the case because we do have knight on f3 defending our bishop. But notice that after the knight moves, black is attacking our bishop with 1 and 2 attackers, and since we only have one defender, that's not enough and our bishop is not really defended. We can play out the sequence of moves with knight takes, and if we recapture the knight, bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes, and you can see that we're just an entire knight down. And as a reminder, if we go back to the start, if we take their bishop, they just recapture with the knight, saving the knight that is in danger, and once again check and they're an entire knight up. I did say that this tactic was something people at my level miss, but it's not as obvious as moving a knight and just blundering that piece completely. A lot more common is a tactic using the same sort of theme, and it often comes about in French or Caro-Kann pawn structures. Here's a line of the Caro-Kann variation that I play quite a bit in online chess. After e4, c6 is the standard move of the Caro-Kann, and then d4, d5, e5, and c5 makes this an advanced variation. Opponents often follow up with c3 logical moves, knight to c6, bishop to b5, e6, bishop to e3, we take the pawn, exchange, knight to e7, knight f3, bishop d7, and here a lot of players go into autopilot and just castle. Looks like a really logical move. Pause the video quickly and figure out, is castling okay over here, and if it's not, what would be a better move for white to play. We can notice over here that white's bishop is undefended, and also that our knight can move to a square where it would be defending our own bishop. We're not winning an entire knight, but after the move knight takes e5, you can notice that if they capture us, we just get to take the bishop. And if they rather decide to, after take our bishop with check, we hop back with our attacked knight, and you can see that we've won a pawn in this position. If white had been aware of the danger that could be happening and had rather gone something like knight to c3, now we can check our conditions, and one of the conditions is not met. So our knight will be defending our bishop when we move over there, but the problem is this bishop is now defended by the knight. We can play this out, so if we go over here, they can just capture us back and ignore their bishop because it is defended. And after knight takes, we can even go queen check over here, but they go back, the knight is defended, and you can check that we've just lost ourselves an entire piece for a pawn. So here the tactic doesn't work because that bishop was adequately defended. Keep an eye out for this, both as something that you can use against your opponents, but also make sure that your opponents can't use it against you. YouTube has decided that this is probably the best video for you to watch, so why not go and check it out if you haven't seen it already. Thank you very much for watching, and happy chessing!